akan kemudian diterjemahkan kepada para narasumber. Baik, good evening ladies and gentlemen, greetings, salam hangat dan juga salam bahagia buat kita semua. Welcome to KKI Warsi International Webinar towards the fourth decade contribution of community-based forest management to improving family economic resources and climate change. My name is Prita Laura and I will be moderating tonight's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indonesian Conservation Community Warsi, with the main focus on joint conservation with the community, continues to strive to maintain local wisdom, manage forest resources in a sustainable manner. Warsi has worked for forest-dwelling communities alongside marginalized indigenous people and forest-dependent communities. Warsi seeks to encourage community involvement in managing forests, encourage improvement in forest governance policies, empower and strengthen the economy of communities in and around forests. The past 3 decades have shown that community-managed forest area are able to maintain ecology and create economic resources. Without having to remove tree stands, this activity is carried out by collaborating with parties that hold the principle of mutual respect and high commitment to nature and the environment, of course. And we would like to welcome our distinguished guests of tonight, the Honorable Director General of Social Forestry and Environment Partnership at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Dr. Insinyur Bambang Supriyanto, Honorable Chairman of the Supervisory Board of KKI Warsi, Mr. Nurkolis, Honorable Chairman of the KKI Warsi Member Council, Mr. Bening Sugianto, Honorable Executive Director of KKI Warsi, Mr. Rudy Syaf, Honorable CEO of Zero Mission, Ms. Claire Wick, Honorable Director of Community Forest International, Mr. Mark Provenberger, Honorable Program Coordinator of KKI Warsi, Ms. Emmy Primadona. And also, we would like to welcome all environmental activists and webinar participants. Please welcome. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Warsi has been actively working for 30 years, promoting base forest management. Let's listen to the welcoming speech from Mr. Bening Sugianto, Chairman of the KKI Warsi Member Council, and testimonies of the parties related to the works and journey of Warsi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam hangat, selamat malam, salam bahagia selalu. Walaupun di era pandemi ini yang belum usai ini, mudah-mudahan semua dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Yang terhormat Dewan Pengawas KKI Warsi, Dewan Anggota KKI Warsi, Badan Pelaksana KKI Warsi, beserta stafnya, dan seluruh sobat-sobat seperjuangan, anggota komunitas dimanapun berada. Alhamdulillah, mudah-mudahan dalam keadaan yang sehat walafiat. Selanjutnya saya ucapkan terima kasih untuk para narasumber. Dalam hal ini Pak Bambang Supriyanto yang memang tidak asing lagi bagi KKI Warsi, karena beliau inilah sering hadir dalam webinar maupun dalam kegiatan-kegiatan praktis dengan Warsi, yaitu Dirjen PSKL KLHK, Kementerian Kehutanan dan Lingkungan Hidup. Selamat datang Pak Bambang, terima kasih. Selanjutnya Pak Max Provenberger ya, dari CIFI, jadi Community Forest International. selamat datang juga. Dan selanjutnya dari Zero Mission, dari Swedia, selamat datang dalam webinar ini. Dan selanjutnya adalah narasumber dari dalam komunitas ini, yaitu Mbak Emmy Primadona. Beliau inilah yang punya pengalaman besar ya, punya pengalaman lapangan yang selama ini mengawal program-program RED, yaitu Reducing Emission from Deforestation and Forest Degradation. Jadi tentunya malam ini akan hangat ya, karena dengan materi pengalaman-pengalaman yang ada bisa menjadi bagian materi yang bisa didiskusikan dalam webinar ini. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu semua yang saya hormati dan yang saya cintai, webinar ini tetap masih dalam rangka 30 tahun KKI Warsi bersama masyarakat. Berjuang bersama masyarakat, bagaimana masyarakat bisa mengelola hutan secara lestari, mendapatkan akses terhadap pengelolaan hutan. Dan ini tentunya pada era perkembangan zaman, pada kebijakan makro pun ada istilah apa ya, gayung bersambut atau bersambut gayung lah apa itu ya, dengan kebijakan makro di negeri ini, yaitu dengan istilah kalau Warsi itu konservasi bersama masyarakat. Nah, kalau negara dia kebijakan Pak Bambang itu dengan perhutanan sosial. Nah, ini artinya ada peluang-peluang besar bagaimana rakyat bisa mengelola hutan. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu semuanya yang saya hormati, mudah-mudahan webinar ini kita bisa saling berdiskusi bersama, bertukar pikiran, dan mengambil satu pelajaran penting dan menjadi sejarah penting bagi Warsi yang selama ini menjadi organisasi civil society. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu semuanya, tidak akan panjang kalam saya, maka webinar ini saya buka dengan bacaan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sesuatu yang baik itu bisa akan datang dengan sendirinya, tapi alangkah baiknya diperjuangkan. Salam lestari. Wa mafiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Jazakumullah khairan katsiran. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Forests are not only the commodities, but also the essential elements embedded in the community's life. The communities living in and around the forests have built and developed sustainable forest management scheme for years. However, the concession holders seem to have more dominant roles in managing and controlling forests exploitatively than those communities which tend to burst various ecological issues and conflicts while disregarding the ecosystem balance. The Indonesian conservation community Warsi exists and comes to enhance and empower the community's involvement to manage and preserve their forests sustainably. Warsi focuses mainly on empowering the marginal tribes through protecting their forests, livelihood, and their basic rights including the education and health access and economic development. During the implementation of their facilitation programs, Warsi works with various marginal tribes in Jambi province, such as the Orang Rimba, Bathin Sembilan, and Talang Mamak tribes. This activity contributes to providing the recommendation for the Indonesian government to produce the decree through Ministry of Forestry, which were officially inaugurated in 2002 by Gusja, the President of Republic of Indonesia. The decree pointed out Bukit Wabelas National Park as home for Orang Rimba where they can live in accordance with their customs and cultures. Meanwhile, Warsi facilitates the orang rimba living in the buffer zone of National Park, and in the concessions belong to the companies to adapt themselves to any changes around. Warsi promotes the partnership scheme between the orang rimba and the companies, such as what has happened between orang rimba Sungai Terap and Industrial Timber Plantation, HTI, Wana Parentis. In addition, Warsi also furiously advocates the basic rights and livelihood for orang rimba by involving multi-stakeholders, such as Joko Widodo, the President of Indonesia, Ministry of Agrarian and Spatial Planning, National Land Agency, the Indonesian National Human Rights Commission, KSP, and local governments. To encourage the fulfillment of the basic rights of marginal tribes, Warsi collaborates with multi-parties to provide basic access, such as education and health. Either they directly visit the orang rimba groups in the field or indirectly assist and give access to the formal schools. Up to now, Warsi has provided non-formal education for the orang rimba children through developing the PKBT Bungo Kembang, the Public Learning Center. In addition, Warsi also works with the Ministry of Education to provide the basic and higher education programs for orang rimba. Meanwhile, the health facilitators of Warsi regularly provide the medical checkup and other health needs for the orang rimba and Talang Mamak groups monthly. To improve the quality of health access, Warsi also collaborates with Ajman Institute, Medical Program of University Jambi, Health Department, and the nearest public health center. Warsi encourages the government to register the orang rimba into the National Public Administration, that they can access government's programs for marginal tribes directly. As the result, the communities had obtained a temporary identity card to ease them access the social cash transfer from the government programs, and now the orang rimba has had permanent identity where the Ministry of Social of Republic of Indonesia came and visited the orang rimba community. Meanwhile, Warsi facilitates the nursery and cultivation programs using the local plants grown around the community to improve their livelihood in the forest. Furthermore, Warsi trains the orang rimba to tap the rubber and facilitates the rubber markets for the orang rimba living in the concession of the company, EAPT. Wana Parentis. Warsi also encourages the rights of the communities to access the natural resources through community-based forest management, CBFM, program. Initially, the forest management was conducted by the communities through Regent's decree and local regulation. Now, their activities have been recognized by the MOF of Republic of Indonesia through five different schemes, including village forest, community forest, customary forest, community plantation forest, and social forestry. The first village forest decree was handed over directly by the Minister of Forestry, MS Kaban in Lubuk Bengen village. The submission of this decree is a new chance to encourage communities to manage forests based on local wisdom to preserve forests for their prosperity. Moreover, Warsi has facilitated the community to obtain the legality of forest management, and their activities in promoting community-based forest management have contributed to the achievement of the national program through social forestry in various types of areas, from mountains to coastal areas with peat and mangrove forests, and from various ethnic and community groups. The data compiled by Warsi shows that CBFM program is able to decrease the rate of deforestation, and it can be referred to as one step to mitigate and adapt to climate change, as well as help improve the economy of the community around the forest. Local potential-based businesses continue to develop, including the management of manu rattan, organic rice, coffee processing, honeybee cultivation, food processing, ecotourism, and carbon environmental services and tree adoption program. To ensure the community's rights to manage and save the forest, Warsi advocates for protecting the remaining forests and develops a database system application called Potential Microspace, which provides spatial and social data which can be accessed online and offline, so it can be used as a data reference for the development of village and rural development. In addition, Warsi also collaborates with the local government to build a website for monitoring the circulation of timber through the application www.hutanan.jamiprof.go.id.
Mari menjaga
hutan. Mari menjaga hutan.
Nama saya Nggelembo Temenggung Sungai Teram, mengucapkan terima kasih dengan Warsi telah membimbing Wang Rimbo tentang kesehatan. Kini kami rutin boleh kata seminggu sekali untuk kesehatan. Uang kesehatannya masuk ke dalam. Sudah itu anak kami sudah tahu untuk tulis baca. Warsi mengurui untuk lahan 114 untuk kehidupan dan kehidupan Wang Rimbo untuk makan dari hari ke hari. Terima kasih. Selamat ulang tahun Warsi yang ke-30. Sudah itu kami berharap dengan Warsi membimbing Wang Rimbo seterusnya.
I'd like to highlight two things about Warsi's work. The first is Warsi's commitment to communities. Warsi's village facilitators are based in the communities, working and learning with the people they work with. This field experience is used to advocate better government policy. Warsi are pioneers in the expansion of community forest management in Indonesia. They have helped to create a more equitable, sustainable alternative to forest clearance, and in doing so have helped to shape Indonesia's response to climate change. The second is Warsi's commitment to learning. Warsi has always been open to pause, reflect, and question the impact of their work. This has allowed them to adapt and innovate. In the 30 years since Warsi was formed, the rights of indigenous and local communities have become widely recognised in policy and law. Companies make environmental and social commitments. Protected areas have started to accommodate rights. And climate change has changed the way we think about land use. All this creates opportunities and challenges for forest communities. Warsi's work, its commitment to learning and to the communities it serves is going to be even more important over the next 30 years.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Dan pertama, perkenalkan saya Samsul Widodo, staf ahli Menteri Bidang Hubungan Antar Lembaga, Kementerian Desa, PDT, dan Transmigrasi. Pertama, saya mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun ke Warsi yang ke-31 tahun. Saya kaget juga, Warsi sudah 31 tahun gitu ya. Jadi berdiri dari tahun 91, mulai dari warung informasi konservasi, para kegiat aktivis lingkungan dari berbagai disiplin, sampai mendirikan komunitas konservasi Indonesia. Saya pikir satu proses, dan untuk usia manusia umur 30 itu udah cukup dewasa gitu ya. Jadi dan mampu bertahan selama ini. Saya pikir sekali lagi selamat ulang tahun. Dan terus terang saya mengenal Warsi kaget juga pada saat itu, pada saat Warsi membuat satu kegiatan yang disebut dengan ruang mikro. Terus terang ini membangun satu kesadaran bahwa dengan era Undang-Undang Nomor 6 tahun 2014, Undang-Undang Desa, di mana desa menjadi motor penggerak pembangunan, dan harapannya adalah desa mampu mengenali potensi dan masalahnya gitu ya. Jadi dengan adanya ruang mikro ini, desa diminta mulai melihat kembali sebenarnya potensi dari desa itu apa. Itu yang penting. Jadi metodologi yang dilakukan oleh Warsi dengan mengajak seluruh stakeholders di level desa untuk keliling desa untuk melakukan pemetaan potensi-potensinya, masalah-masalahnya dan sebagainya, sehingga nanti bisa di-overlay dengan data numerik gitu ya. Data spasial dengan data numerik ini menjadi satu luar biasa. Selama ini kami di Kementerian Desa dengan SDGs Desa, data yang kami kolek adalah data angka, data numerik. Dan ini bisa disinergikan antara apa yang dilakukan oleh Warsi sebagai satu gagasan yang luar biasa ini dengan apa yang dilakukan oleh kami di Kementerian Desa. Karena Pak Menteri kami selalu mengatakan mengenai data mikro. Data mikro yang digabung dengan ruang mikro spasial sehingga bisa memberi masukan, bisa menjadi fondasi di dalam pembangunan desa. Saya rasa itu yang saya sampaikan, dan saya pikir ini perlu didesiminasikan kepada semua pihak, kepada seluruh aktivis lingkungan, baik itu aktivis desa gitu ya, bahwa ada praktek-praktek baik yang sudah digagas oleh KKI Warsi. Sekali lagi, selamat ulang tahun untuk Warsi dan selalu sukses ke depan dan mencerahkan kita semuanya. Terima kasih. Selamat siang. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mengawetkan hutan untuk kesejahteraan. Terima kasih Warsi.
Hello, my name is Anna Björndal and I'm head of the International Department at the Rainforest Foundation Norway. And I'm here today to congratulate Warsi with their 30th anniversary. Congratulations, Warsi, on behalf of all of RFM. We have been working with Warsi since 1997, and the partnership has focused on the protection of the Buki Duabelas National Park, securing the rights of the Orangirimba and the Talang Mamak people, advocacy and information campaigns, and developing sustainable community-based forest management for communities in KKI Warsi's project areas in Sumatra and North Kalimantan has always been our purpose and common goal. We have seen that Warsi gets results. During our partnership, we have seen KKI Warsi's strong and solid organizational administrative capacities. Project documents are always good and submitted at given deadlines. We have seen that Warsi shows significant success stories in fighting for the human rights of local communities and the protection of the important rainforest in Indonesia. Thank you so much for all your important work, Warsi, and good luck with everything in the future. We look forward to seeing you soon again.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Ahmad Bestari, Kepala Dinas Kehutanan Provinsi Jambi, beserta seluruh Rimbawan Provinsi Jambi mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun yang ke-30 untuk KKI Warsi. KKI Warsi selama ini sangat bagus hubungannya dengan Dinas Kehutanan Provinsi Jambi dalam rangka pemberdayaan masyarakat. Kami merasa sangat terbantu dengan kehadiran KKI Warsi dalam upaya melestarikan kawasan hutan, pemberdayaan masyarakat, terutamanya di kawasan-kawasan hutan-hutan lindung kita, hutan-hutan masyarakat adat. KKI Warsi sudah berjalan sangat jauh dalam rangka perdagangan biokarbon, bagaimana masyarakat di lapangan bisa memanfaatkan kawasan hutan untuk kehidupan sehari-hari. Kami berharap ke depannya KKI Warsi tetap dalam pola yang ada sekarang membantu kami Dinas Kehutanan Provinsi Jambi dalam upaya pemberdayaan masyarakat, pelestarian kawasan hutan. Sekali lagi kami mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun untuk KKI Warsi. KKI Warsi tetap dengan semboyan melestarikan hutan untuk kesejahteraan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dear Warsi, on behalf of the Netherlands Committee of IUCN, I'd like to extend our congratulations with 30 years of preserving forests and the rights of people in the forests. I never learned the meaning of the letters in Warsi, It must be something like the W for warriors, the A for action, the R for Rudy, Reinal and Rietje, the S for sustainability, and the I for ideology. 10 years ago I had the opportunity to visit Jambi and we were served durian at the Warsi office. I will always remember the great atmosphere, the jokes, the songs, and the shared drive to safeguard nature as the foundation for all life on Earth. I admire the energy and the creativity of the people in Warsi, and we feel privileged to be part of Warsi's network. We wish you a successful workshop and we are looking forward to be part of the 4th decade of Warsi's work. Terima kasih.
Selamat ulang tahun KKI Warsi, sebuah perjalanan yang luar biasa, 3 dekade penuh dedikasi. Saya merasa terhormat menjadi salah satu saksi mata, menyaksikan dengan mata kepala saya sendiri. Saya keluar masuk hutan di Jambi, di Sumatera Barat, menyaksikan bagaimana para fasilitator Warsi bekerja bersama masyarakat dengan penuh pengabdian 24 jam selama berbulan-bulan, bertahun-tahun, mendampingi masyarakat untuk mengelola akses hutan, mendapat akses hutan dan kemudian mengelolanya dengan prinsip-prinsip yang lestari. Dan saya menuangkan perjalanan tersebut di dalam buku saya, Menjaga Rimba Terakhir, sebuah tribute kepada perjuangan teman-teman Warsi yang tidak kenal lelah untuk mendampingi masyarakat. Perjalanan masih panjang, saya menantikan selalu untuk kembali ke lapangan bersama teman-teman Warsi. Selamat berjuang, terima kasih.
Greetings everybody, my name is Steve Ree. I used to work for the Ford Foundation as a senior program officer for natural resource management and climate change for 12 years, and I had the honor of working with Warsi for at least 10 of those, if not more. And I was, first of all, congratulations on 30 years. Warsi's dedication and commitment to communities has been amazing. And as well as to sustainable natural resource management in general. Additionally, I would add that Warsi has been incredibly dedicated to improving the livelihoods of local communities. Lastly, I would say that Warsi has done an amazing job of recruiting young, amazing staff. And so, congratulations, and here's to another 30 years of Warsi.
Iya, baik. Let's give a big applause for the dedication of Warsi. Congratulations, happy anniversary to Warsi. Yay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have 4 incredible speakers who will share with us their insight and perspective. They are Ms. Emmy Primadona, Program Director of KKI Warsi. And will join with us also Mr. Bambang Supriyanto, Director General of Social Forestry and Environmental Partnership at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. And we also have Mr. Mark Bowenberger, Director of Community Forestry International. Due to the time difference between Indonesia and the United States, where Mr. Mark is right now, his presentation of tonight is pre-recorded. And we also have Ms. Claire Wick, CEO of Zero Emission. All right, before we begin, let us explain the guidelines of the webinar. First, the webinar is being recorded and it is simultaneously broadcasted on the Warsi YouTube channel. And the second, to all participants, please fill in the attendance list, which link will be sent in the chat column in the middle of the event. And third, the webinar is available in Indonesian and English. Should you need a translation, please click the interpretation globe button below. Yeah, you can see under your screen, and select the desired language. And the fourth, participant cannot turn on the video or make themselves. Yeah. And fifth, participant can ask questions via text in the Q&A column. Please use the Q&A column, not the chat box. Yeah. And next, for participants watching on our YouTube channel, you are welcome to ask your question in the live chat box. And please ask a question with the format, name, institution, to whom the question is directed. And the question will be selected by the moderator before being submitted to the resources person, and question will be answered during the discussion session. Okay, thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's welcome our first speaker, Miss Emmy Primadona, Program Coordinator of KKI Warsi. She will be talking about towards the fourth decade of Warsi, contribution of community-based forest management to improving community livelihood and climate change. Please welcome Miss Emmy. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Miss Moderator. Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Emmy Primadona. I'm program coordinator program of KKI Warsi. For this evening, I would like to present about the history of the fourth decade of Warsi, and with the title, The Contributions of Community-Based Forest Management to Improving Community Livelihood and Climate Change. Next. Let's talk about Warsi. Warsi is the Indonesian conservation community. It was established in 1991, and so far we have been working in several provinces in Sumatra, like Riau, Jambi, West Sumatra, Bengkulu, and South Sumatra. In Kalimantan itself, we work in two provinces, East Kalimantan and North Kalimantan. Basically, KKI Warsi concentrate the issue on the forest conservation and to put in place the local community as the agents of change. And Warsi also work intensively facilitate local community and forest dwellers, people for sustainable forest management. On the last, Warsi also encourage sustainable development practice which harmonize, synergize with the economy, ecology, and strengthen the social solidarity. Next. For the first decade, start 1991 until 2001, Warsi lived because of the concerns about the exploitations of natural resources, where there are many and massive exploitations for industrial timber plantation, for logging concession, and for palm oil transmigrations, and it makes that the total numbers of forests has been degraded massively. So at that times, Warsi worked more closely with the local community, giving the community empowerment. For example, we are doing capacity building, such as giving the literacy program for orang rimba, giving the health access, education, and also awareness raising. Awareness raising, it means that we confirm that to local community that the natural resources is not only for the present purposes, but also it's for the future generations. And then KKI Warsi also work on the strengthen the value of local initiatives. For example, like in Orang Rimba, they understand the terms of tanah bedewo. Tanah bedewo, it means that the area or the pristine forest that cannot be cutting down or degraded. That's from generation to generation should be protected. And then we also talk about the protections for river bank. So it's not allowed to cut down the forest near the river as the water catchment area. And then like in the hill and slope area, local community also understand that it needs to be protected, because if if they cut it down, it will generate a natural disaster, something like that. And for orang rimba, they also understand about the concept of hompongon. Hompongon is like a belt to protect the forest. So nobody allowed to pass over the belt or the hompongon to cut down the forest. Next. On the second decade, period 2001 and 2011, we understand that the tenure right recognitions is an urgent to be recognized. Then we call this CBFM, Community-Based Forest Management. Why? Because on the ground level, we found there are many conflicts between how to legalize, who has the right over the natural resources. And mostly local community always marginalized on that issue. At the times, there is no legal recognition regarding to the community ownership or the community management. But Warsi is starting it with the customary forest scheme, where the regent's degree can give a title to local customary forest to manage the forest. And then before the judicial review, actually Warsi has started the initiative encourage the local government to make regional regulations for Datuk Sinaru Putih, where they recognize the customary people, and it has been protected through the regional regulation. And after that, Warsi is working on intensive doing lobby and communications to the government, saying that this kinds of model has been improving. This has been proven that local community is really successful to maintain, to protect the forest sustainably. So the recognitions of tenure right for the local community is very, very crucial. And it has been responded to the regulations number 6 in 2007, which says that there's an opportunity for the community to manage the forest. And that time, Warsi started facilitated the first Hutan Desa in Indonesia, located in Lubuk Beringin in 2009. And we will say that this is the milestone of KKI Warsi to promote the first Hutan Desa in Indonesia, and it has been duplicated all over Indonesia until now, and it became the history of the social forestry. Next. The third decade, after the recognitions, we have been thinking, what next? How we can maximize the benefits of recognitions of tenure right, and how it can be effective both for local community and for economic and social. So Warsi has started many initiatives to improve the effectivity of CBFM and also improve the benefit of natural resources. We introducing the technology for forest management, such as Forest Guardian. Forest Guardian is like artificial intelligence that has been connected to the application on the phone, so we can directly see the activity of illegal logging happening in the forest. And at the time, we also can take the coordinate of the locations of the activity of illegal logging. We can see that this kind of technology is very helpful to prevent the activity of illegal logging happen in the forest area. In the second one, we also work on the micro spatial plans, where based on the online village. So we try to make the development of the village refers to the potency of the social and the spatial plan in the village itself. And on the third decade, Warsi also maximize how to improve the local community and livelihood by synchronize village-owned enterprises to natural resources itself in the village. And then for the degraded land, we also developing agroforestry, which is generating multi-layer income from the local community, which is not only depend on one commodity, but also many, many commodities. And through lobby and communications, we already successfully to influence the local community, both national, subnational, to support the CBFM program and also encourage many actors and many parties together. We work on the low emissions development. Next. Talking about the natural resources management, we also talk about the ecosystem services, because forest is not only about the trees, but also about the ecosystem inside it. For example, water for irrigation, water for ecotourism, water for micro hydropower plant or for energy, and also a good climate for the local community who lives in the forest, and even for national and international level. Next. When we talk about the issue of ecosystem services, there's another issue which is introduced on the UNFCCC in a COP Bali in 2007, talking about RED, reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation as a solution to tackle the climate change. We've seen that RED plus over financial incentive, and Warsi thinking that the tenure right recognition is a key for the RED or REDD implementation. So that's why we start working to develop a model of community-based project in one of our project site in Bujangraba. Next. Bujangraba, located in Bungo district in Jambi province, consists of 5 village forests, which is one of the village forests is the first village forest in Indonesia. Located in Bungo, from the map, we can see that the driver of deforestation in the area is very, very massive. We can see from the top, we can see that there is a threat from the palm oil plantation. We can see also from the plantation forest concession, and the other for the mining concession. Based on that issue, if without any intervention, we afraid that this location is very, very under threat, and we start this model as the one basic of the community-based project. Next. Why Bujangraba Pest Project? Actually, we've tried to make a campaign and communication to various stakeholders that actually CBFM has been proven able to contribute to stop deforestation. As we know that Indonesia has the target 12.7 million hectares for the social forestry. By giving that kind of evidence and concrete action, we make sure we are pretty agreed that the target of 12.7 million hectares is very good for the protection of remaining forests in Indonesia. We also start this kind of project to think it over how to open channeling funding to support the sustainable forest management based on the compensation services over the effort to protect the forest. And we believe that by many support from the outside, it's also increased the community commitment to continue to manage the forest in a sustainable manner. Next. We have been thinking there are 5 project interventions to slow down deforestation in that area. The first one, we are building forest demarcation, which one is protected area, which one is utilizations area. And we also make it into village micro special plan. And regularly, the local community has a commitment to do forest patrol, forest enrichment with high economic value commodity, improving community economic and livelihood, and strengthening institutional capacity. These are the 5 main activities that we do to slow down deforestation in that area. Next. So what has been happened? We start the project in 2013 until 2020. Since 2013 until 2018, we have seen that this area, there are no deforestation. It's zero deforestation happen. It has been proved that local community has really successful to stop deforestation. But unfortunately, in 2019, because of the heat and the dry season is not only in Jambi but also nationally, there are some part of the forest has been got a fire because of the this area is ecotourism place and the visitors burn something by accident. But in 2020 there is no deforestation happen in that area. Next, we can see from the map. We can see from the graphs the line with the red line. It's mean that if without any intervention, there will be 1.6% deforestation will be happen. But the yellow lines on the graphs, it's mentioned that the commitment of local community to prevent deforestation until 70%. And the green line says that there is no deforestation happen from 2013 until 2018. But in 2019, it happens deforestation until around 90 hectares, but it doesn't touch the commitment of the local community until 70%. And there are 5 villages which have a high commitment to stop deforestation in the Bujanggaraba, which are Lubuk Beringin, Senamat Ulu, Sungai Mengkuang, Sangi Letung Buat, and Sungai Telang village. Next. So, based on that kind of initiative, Warsi tried to make this model into carbon certification. We submit PIN, we submit PDD, we do the certifications of the carbon that has been able to reduce by the local community. And at the end, even though the project started in 2013, we just got the support is only in the late of 2018. We got a financial support from the traveling agency, individual who has a high commitment to the protection of the forest. We got fundraising for forest protection, and all financial support is already verified with the local amount of carbon stock saved in the village forest. And the project is succeeded to slow down deforestation, and all this and all the financial support has been distributed to all 5 villages equally right now. So basically, when we talk about the past commitment, it should be verified with the number of the carbon as a proven that the project it succeeds to reduce the carbon emission. The total carbon stock in Bujanggaraba every year is around 37,000 tons per year. This is proven that local community has been succeeds to reduce deforestation and forest degradation in that area. Next. With the collaborations with the government, local institution, forest management unit, Warsi play important roles to achieve the target of social forestry in Indonesia. In total, Warsi and collaboration with the governments, with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, we have been achieved more than 265,000 hectares for social forestry in the different 5 schemes. Next. So when we talk about social forestry, it's not about to slow down deforestation. In some area in West Sumatra, in project site of Warsi, we have been identified that social forestry is not only able to reduce the forest degradation, but also to improve the forest growth. We can see that landscape Lunang, where the forest cover in 2017 is only 1,900, in 2020 it improved until 6%. In Gunung Selasi, the improvement of forest growth until 18%, and even in KBKA and Sari Alhantigo, the forest growth even improving from 19% until 15%. And it's it's a proven that a social forestry is good for tackling the climate change. Next. When we talk about social forestry, we are not also talking about carbon. Warsi make another PES program we call tree adoption. How to integrating ecology and economic benefit by adoption the tree. It's a voluntary scheme. The number of the donation fee is only 200,000 rupiah per year per tree, and it doesn't keep the forest standing, but still get the economic benefit. Please visit us in pohonasu.org. Next, yes. These are the locations of Pohon Asuh. Mostly everything is in the Sumatra. The total locations is 11. 11 location consists of Jambi, West Sumatra, and Bengkulu. Next. And how the improvement of the Pohon Asuh? We have been collected more than 433,000 million for the tree adoptions program, and it has been adopted more than 2,000 trees so far. When people adopt the tree, they will get the certificate and they will get the report how the finance distributed to the local community. Next.
Miss Emmy, I'm sorry, I have to remind you that you only have 1 minute more.
Okay, this is the last one. We talk promotion. When we talk about promotion, we talk about the fundraising, public campaign education, and we also use volunteer mobilization, collaboration with many parties, and social media promotion. This is the last one. Next. To conclude, managing ecosystem services provides opportunity for financial support, both national and international. We believe sustainable forest management is not about commitment, but also about empowerment program, institutional capacity, collaboration, and financial support. I think that's all about my presentation. Thank you very much. Come back to Miss Moderator.
Thank you, Miss Emmy Primadona, as a program coordinator of KKI Warsi. Yeah, that's how Warsi contribution on social forestry, ladies and gentlemen, which is social forestry is very important in Indonesia, playing a very significant role to stop deforestation and also empowering the community. And for participants who want to ask a question to Miss Emmy Primadona, please type your question in the Q&A box below. Miss Emmy will answer the selected question during the discussion session. And now let's welcome our second speaker, Mr. Bambang Supriyanto, Director General of Social Forestry and Environmental Partnership at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. And he will share his insight on social forestry in the perspective of social security, food, and climate. Mr. Bambang will be presenting in Bahasa Indonesia. As we mentioned before, this webinar is available in English and also Indonesian. Should you need a translation, please click the interpretation globe button below and select the described language. Mr. Bambang, the floor is yours. Silakan, Pak Bambang.
Baik, terima kasih atas waktunya. Selamat malam untuk teman-teman semuanya. Pada malam hari ini saya akan menyampaikan paparan tentang perhutanan sosial dalam perspektif ketahanan sosial, pangan, dan iklim. Presentasi saya akan dibagi dalam 3, yaitu yang pertama adalah mengenai social forestry governance, kemudian yang kedua adalah ketahanan pangan, dan yang ketiga adalah ketahanan iklim. Baik, saya akan mulai dari yang pertama mengenai ketahanan pangan, perhutanan sosial, maaf. Jadi Bapak dan Ibu, bahwa perhutanan sosial itu adalah mengenai pengelolaan hutan lestari, ya, yang diberikan atau dilakukan oleh kelompok masyarakat atau masyarakat hukum adat untuk mengelola hutan negara atau hutan adat untuk tujuan kesejahteraan dalam keseimbangan lingkungan dan dinamika sosial budaya dalam bentuk 5 skema, yaitu skema hutan desa, hutan kemasyarakatan, hutan tanaman rakyat, kemudian kemitraan dan adat. Nah, yang paling menarik dari program perhutanan sosial bahwa yang paling menarik dari program perhutanan sosial itu adalah bahwa pelaku atau masyarakat itu dapat mengelola pada semua kawasan hutan, baik itu kawasan konservasi, kemudian kawasan hutan lindung maupun hutan produksi. Yang membedakannya itu adalah mengenai bisnis modelnya saja. Kalau hutan konservasi dan hutan lindung, bisnis modelnya adalah mengenai HBK, hasil hutan bukan kayu, dan jasa lingkungan. Sedangkan kalau hutan produksi itu adalah boleh dengan jasa lingkungan, kemudian HBK, tetapi boleh juga mengenai timber management atau masalah manajemen kayu. Nah, yang membedakan antara program pemberdayaan masyarakat di kawasan hutan, terutama sebelum tahun 2015 dan setelah tahun 2015, adalah mengenai support perhutanan sosial, tidak hanya sekedar memberikan akses, tapi ditopang dengan program pemerataan ekonomi, yaitu dengan pendampingan dan juga untuk akses untuk finansial dan juga akses untuk pasar. Jadi Bapak dan Ibu, target kita adalah 12,7 juta hektar. Ya, yang paling menarik adalah kita punya 1.510 pendamping dan itu termasuk Warsi tentunya yang telah mendampingi beberapa lokasi perhutanan sosial. Yang tujuannya adalah sebenarnya dari program pendampingan tersebut itu adalah yang pertama adalah kelompok masyarakat itu mampu mentransformasikan mengenai local wisdom atau pengetahuan lokalnya kepada sustainable forest management. Dan yang paling menarik juga adalah selain sustainable forest management, dia juga harus memberikan kesejahteraan masyarakat melalui pengelolaan usaha yang berperspektif untuk profit dan juga yang profit tetapi dalam konteks green gitu. Nah, karena pendekatannya adalah untuk usaha, maka pendekatan yang kita gunakan itu adalah cluster komoditi, ya, cluster komoditi. Sehingga pada ujungnya nanti untuk jangka panjang program perhutanan sosial itu juga akan membentuk semacam sentra-sentra produk di tingkat desa atau di tingkat kecamatan. Ya. Yang terpenting sebetulnya dengan program perhutanan sosial itu dimaksudkan paling tidak untuk mengentaskan kemiskinan 25.853 desa yang sekarang posisinya itu di angka kemiskinannya adalah 37,6% gitu ya. Paling tidak dengan memberikan akses, kemudian dengan pendampingan dan akses untuk modal dan pasar tadi, harapannya masyarakat lebih sejahtera, hutannya juga lebih lestari. Sehingga paling tidak kemiskinannya akan menjadi turun, kemudian konflik sosialnya juga akan mereda, kemudian penguatan untuk ketahanan pangan, dan juga ekosistem dan kelestarian hasilnya lebih terjamin. Nah, Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, dari target 12,7 juta hektar, kita pada saat ini hampir 5 juta yang sudah kita distribusikan. Kemudian yang paling menarik dari pendekatan perhutanan sosial itu konfliknya juga mulai menurun. Kalau kita lihat dari 5 tahun sebelumnya ada sekitar 2.000 kasus dan sekarang itu paling tidak yang tercatat oleh kita adalah 618 kasus. Nah, kemudian dengan fasilitasi tadi kita mempunyai kelompok usaha perhutanan sosial. Kalau dia baru menerima persetujuan atau SK, ya, mereka baru membuat rencana pengelolaan hutan, kemudian dia baru menentukan unit usaha, maka dia dikategorikan sebagai tingkat awal atau blue. Kemudian ketika dia sudah mengimplementasikan, maka tingkatnya itu adalah silver. Kemudian kalau dia sudah mempunyai pasar nasional atau regional, itu adalah gold, dan yang orientasinya ekspor itu adalah platinum. Nah, Bapak dan Ibu, ternyata hasil-hasil 5 tahun perhutanan sosial 2015-2020 itu telah dilakukan asesmen dari kata data, dari 8.000 diambil 103 mengenai kelompok usaha perhutanan sosial. Dan yang paling menarik ternyata kita lihat bahwa bisnis model utamanya adalah mengenai hasil hutan bukan kayu, itu yang pertama. Kemudian yang kedua adalah kayu, kemudian bibit, jasa lingkungan, dan yang lainnya. Ini kurang lebih seperti itu. Dan yang paling menarik lagi adalah transformasi mengenai keberhasilannya itu adalah ditentukan oleh pendamping, ya seperti Warsinya ini, seperti NGO yang lainnya, itu memberikan peranan penting dalam konteks pendampingan. Itu paling tidak 63% mengatakan demikian. Yang paling menarik sebetulnya setelah 5 tahun, paling tidak 46% itu pendapatannya meningkat 2 kali lipat. Nah, karena masyarakat sudah diberi kepercayaan untuk menjaga kawasan hutan dan memberikan kemanfaatan, maka sumber daya hutannya itu otomatis akan dijaga oleh masyarakat itu sendiri. Oleh karena itu, kasus illegal logging pada lokasi-lokasi perhutanan sosial pada umumnya tidak ada. 90% itu mengatakan tidak ada, sedangkan yang lain 10% itu mengatakan ada. Kemudian mengenai kebakaran juga sama, ya, kebakaran juga sama, yaitu 94%, itu juga tidak ada. Kemudian konfliknya 85% itu juga tidak ada. Kemudian pencurian kayu 92% juga tidak ada. Nah, dengan demikian transformasi sosial itu memberikan kemanfaatan untuk ekologi dan juga ekonominya. Hal itu disampaikan di dalam hasil riset ini yang mengatakan bahwa ternyata dengan perhutanan sosial itu mereka setuju bahwa masyarakat itu menjadi kompak dan proses-proses demokratisasinya itu bisa dilakukan dengan baik. Kemudian yang paling menarik, dengan klaster komoditi, dengan kelompok yang cukup besar, mereka bisa mengembangkan namanya klaster komoditi, sentra-sentra produk itu bisa dikembangkan. Dan yang terakhir, itu juga membuka lapangan pekerjaan dan juga bagi masyarakat yang tinggal di sekitar kawasan hutan, dan juga nilai tambah melalui community based industry. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, yang kedua mengenai food security. Nah, kita yang saya tawarkan itu ada 2 model, yaitu model yang pertama adalah mengenai pangan agroforestry di gambut, ekosistem gambut. Kemudian yang kedua adalah model pangan agroforestry di tanah terestrial. Nah, Bapak dan Ibu, ketika ada program food estate di Kalimantan Tengah, terutama dengan industrialisasi di sana, maka untuk masyarakat kita kembangkan pendekatan pangan agroforestry yang berbasis kepada tiga pendekatan. Yang pertama adalah local based community. Jadi kita mengembangkan pangan agroforestry berdasarkan local based community. Kemudian yang kedua, kita juga kembangkan namanya community farming. Ya. Dan yang ketiga adalah yang mengenai ramah terhadap ekologi gambut. Dan polanya yang kita pakai adalah silvofisheries, karena gambut banyak kanal-kanal, banyak air, maka kita kembangkan pangan dalam arti luas, yaitu pangan seperti ikan, itu termasuk pangan. Jadi di antara tegakan gambut, ada kanal, ada kolam, itu bisa dipakai untuk silvofisheries. Kemudian untuk agroforestry, di antara tegakan-tegakan tanaman hutan boleh ditanam seperti padi dan tanaman-tanaman lokal, ya, tetapi yang tahan terhadap gambut. Kemudian untuk silvopastoral itu juga sama, bahwa bisa dikembangkan untuk ternak-ternak, misalkan seperti bebek dan lain sebagainya yang berbasis mengenai air. Kemudian dari pendekatan-pendekatan tersebut juga dilakukan yang kita sebut sebagai community based industry di tingkat tapaknya. Ini tingkat partisipasinya sangat tinggi, kita kembangkan di 80 KUPS di Pulang Pisau dan di Kapuas, ya. Dan kita menggunakan dana PEN, ya, program pemulihan ekonomi nasional. Baik, itu kurang lebihnya kalau itu di gambut. Kemudian yang di terestrial kita ingin melihat pangan agroforestry misalkan di Lumajang. Ya, di Lumajang kita berikan persetujuan perhutanan sosial 940 hektar untuk 367 KK, ya, KK. Dan yang paling menarik dalam forest manajemennya, walaupun statusnya hutan produksi, bahwa mereka bersepakat terhadap high conservation value forest di kawasan tersebut itu tetap dilindungi, dan mereka menjadi kewajiban para komunal, ya. Nah, sedangkan untuk yang areal pemanfaatannya itu dimanfaatkan untuk agroforestry dengan tanaman sengon, fast growing species, kemudian di bawahnya itu pisang, ya. Kemudian sengon dengan rumput. Rumput dipakai untuk pakan ternak sapi, ya. Kemudian pisang bisa dijual secara langsung. Nah, yang menjadi persoalan ternyata susunya yang dari sapi itu hasilnya sekitar 5.300 liter. Nah, kalau dari segi perspektif industri itu tidak memenuhi skala ekonomi. Karena apa? Ketika kita bekerja sama dengan salah satu industri susu yang mengambil mereka setiap hari, mereka satu truk itu dia paling tidak 10.000 liter. Sehingga kalau kita hanya bisa menyediakan 5.300, maka itu akan kekurangan, dan biaya transportasinya ditanggung oleh masyarakat. Oleh karena itu kita kembangkan dari satu desa itu, kita kembangkan menjadi 5 desa di sekitarnya dengan pola yang sama. Dan itu kita sebut sebagai integrated area development. Targetnya adalah 20.000 liter per hari, sehingga scale of economy tadi bisa dipenuhi. Biaya transportasinya menjadi murah, dan nilai tambahnya itu bisa diambil oleh masyarakatnya. Kemudian kemanfaatan yang lain dari 5 desa tadi, ternyata dia punya keunikan untuk destinasi wisata yang bisa dikoneksikan satu dengan yang lain. Dan mereka jual sebagai produk ekowisata, dan mereka produk-produk itu bekerja sama dengan hotel, kemudian mereka tawarkan misalkan seperti paket 4 hari 3 malam atau 5 hari 4 malam, yang kemudian setiap harinya itu bergeser dari satu desa ke desa yang lainnya. Sehingga length of stay-nya itu akan menjadi tinggi, kemudian penghasilan atau spend of money-nya itu menjadi besar juga di integrated area development itu, sehingga uang yang bergulir atau ekonomi untuk regionalnya itu juga menjadi baik. Nah, pengalaman kita dalam 5 tahun terakhir setelah kita evaluasi, ternyata yang dulunya mereka hidup di bawah kemiskinan, ya, angka di bawah 500.000 per kapita, sekarang itu sudah hampir 900, itu hampir double, gitu ya. Dan yang paling menarik lagi, tutupan lahannya juga itu meningkat, dan kotoran sapi itu bisa dipakai menjadi biofuel untuk gas dan juga untuk listrik, sehingga dari segi ketahanan iklim itu juga akan menjadi sangat baik. Ini adalah contoh-contoh yang ada di sana. Baik, yang terakhir yang ingin saya sampaikan mengenai climate resiliency, ya, gitu. Bahwa kita tahu bahwa komitmen kita dalam Paris Agreement bahwa Indonesia itu akan menurunkan 29% emisi pada tahun 2030 dengan secara voluntary, kemudian 41% dengan international support. Dan kalau kita lihat dari tabel ini, bahwa forestry itu memegang peranan penting, yaitu 17,2%, ya. Dan bagaimana kontribusi terhadap perhutanan sosial, saya pikir itu sangat besar, nanti akan saya ceritakan. Sedangkan konsep yang kedua yang kita sekarang sedang kembangkan, yaitu mengenai Indonesia Net Sink Volume 2030. yang intinya adalah sebetulnya kita ingin menuju keseimbangan bahwa kalau kita pun ada emisi, maka kita juga akan meningkatkan carbon stock-nya sehingga dia itu menjadi zero gitu ya. Ya paling tidak ada 6 komponen yang kita sedang kerjakan, yaitu masalah karhutla, masalah rehabilitasi hutan dan lahan, kemudian masalah pengelolaan hutan lestari, dan ini yang kita bicarakan adalah mengenai perhutanan sosial dan kawasan konservasi dan masalah konsolidasi fragmentasi habitat ya. Ini paling utama. Jadi ini adalah 6 komponen untuk net pollution 2030. Nah, kemudian apa yang menjadi modalitinya sebetulnya adalah mengenai sustainable forest management gitu ya. Ya, ini yang paling penting bahwa kita punya sekali lagi scope of work kita adalah di 3 kawasan konservasi, lindung dan produksi, termasuk dan juga adat gitu ya. Kemudian ini manfaatnya karena pelakunya itu adalah masyarakat setempat, tentunya yang menikmati juga adalah masyarakat setempat. Kemudian jangka waktunya 35 tahun, kemudian dia punya rencana pengelolaan RKPS dan rencana business plan. Kemudian ada community yang dikembangkan, dan juga yang terakhir adalah kita juga disupport dengan pendekatan dari stakeholder yang lain seperti kampung iklim dan lain sebagainya. Nah, dari sisi perhutanan sosial, paling tidak ada 3 strategi yang saya ingin sampaikan di dalam konteks sustainable forest management. Kalau dia statusnya adalah hutan konservasi dan hutan lindung, bisnis modelnya itu adalah mengenai hasil hutan bukan kayu dan jasa lingkungan wisata. Jadi logikanya di hutan alamnya itu tidak akan pernah ada terdegradasi. Tapi faktanya ada illegal logging, ada ada kebakaran, ada encroachment dan lain sebagainya. Sehingga kalau kita petakan seperti garis merah ini yang saya tunjukkan di sini ya, saya tunjukkan di sini. Ya. Dengan adanya perhutanan sosial, paling tidak yang ini tadi yang seperti disurvei oleh kata data ya, kebakaran hutan tidak terjadi, illegal logging tidak terjadi, encroachment tidak jadi, paling tidak akan menjadi sini. Jadi akan ada semacam gap atau delta, yaitu dalam konteks karbon yang bisa dinikmati oleh masyarakatnya. Ini kurang lebihnya. Nah, sedangkan untuk yang di hutan produksi, tentunya dengan sustainable forest management, ketika dia menebang pasti terjadi emisi. Kemudian dengan sustainable forest management dia akan menanam kembali sehingga dia akan menurun gitu ya. Tetapi sekali lagi kita bisa terapkan ada prinsip-prinsip seperti jangka real reduction impact logging dan lain sebagainya, itu bisa kita terapkan sehingga paling tidak emisinya tidak akan terlalu tinggi, dan dengan penjagaan masyarakat itu juga akan paling tidak deltanya itu akan menjadi menyempit. Dan yang terakhir di dalam konteks kalau areal perhutanan sosial itu degraded ya, tentunya itu akan dilakukan dengan pola agroforestry, silvofisheries dan silvopastoral. Dan menurut hasil penelitian bahwa komponen karbonnya di dalam pola-pola pendekatan ini sudah diteliti oleh research development dari Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Nah, singkat kata sebagai kesimpulannya, sebetulnya dengan 5 tahun dan kemudian mereka ada sebuah studi yang dilakukan oleh Gajah Mada University, ya, Gajah University, itu paling tidak di 5 areal, 5 provinsi yang mereka teliti, itu ternyata paling tidak ada peningkatan hutan primer, itu 23%. Karena apa? Kalau hutan sekundernya itu dijaga, di HHBK, dia otomatis dia akan menjadi bertransformasi menjadi hutan primer lagi. Kemudian yang kedua, ternyata peningkatan luas lahan pertanian juga. Tadi untuk pembicara yang pertama, kita harus melihatnya ekosistem gitu ya. Jadi ada komponen hutan, ada air, dan juga untuk pertanian untuk masyarakat setempat, ya, dalam konteks agroforestry. Dan yang paling menarik sebetulnya ada turunnya luas lahan terbuka, ya, karena kita tahu dari 4,9 juta hektar itu 0,9 juta hektar adalah lahan kritis atau tanah terbuka. Ya, yang terakhir, ya, ternyata dari 5 tahun evaluasi juga ternyata bahwa dari pangan agroforestry, terutama padi, itu memberikan kontribusi sekitar 8,7% itu dari dokup yang kita catat, ya. Kemudian untuk kedelai itu besar sekali, hampir 39%, sedangkan untuk jagung itu 21%. Baik, itu saja yang ingin saya sampaikan kepada Bapak dan Ibu. Saya kembalikan kepada panitia. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Bambang Supriyanto. Tadi kita sudah saksikan, ya, bahkan area hutan primer pun juga lebih baik gitu. Kemudian juga bagaimana kemudian masyarakat dapat lebih berdaya secara ekonomi, selain lingkungan, kemudian ekonomi dari masyarakat, kemudian juga ketahanan pangan, serta juga bagaimana climate resilience, ya, itu bisa dicapai dengan perhutanan sosial. That's what the Ministry of the Environment and the Forestry of Indonesia doing, and we can see how social forestry has many benefits, not only to environment but also for the empowerment of people, and also including food security and climate resilience. That's the most important. And thank you very much once again to Mr. Bambang Supriyanto. Please type your question in the Q&A box below if you have any question to Mr. Bambang, and Mr. Bambang will answer the selected question during the discussion session. Okay, now let's welcome to our third speaker, Mr. Mark Bovenberger, Director of Community Forestry International. Even though this presentation is pre-recorded, due to the time difference between Indonesia and the United States, we are still very excited to hear his insight on linking community tenure recognition with the global context for mitigation and adaptation of climate change. Please welcome the video of Mr. Mark.
Ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak yang terhormat, saya mohon maaf sebabnya saya tidak bisa ikut webinar ini secara live. Saya membuat presentasi ini atas permohonan Ibu Emmy, dan saya sangat gembira saya bisa memberi sedikit informasi mengenai pengalaman saya dengan Red Plus. Sebaiknya presentasi saya akan dalam bahasa Inggris, karena bahasa Indonesia saya jarang dapat dipakai dan mungkin kurang jelas. I'm Mark Poffenberger. As some of you know, I am formerly a program officer at the Ford Foundation in Jakarta from 1981 until 1989. In the mid-1980s, I began working with almarhum Beni Nesendi from the Ministry of Forestry and Pak Mulyadi Pratami Harja from Perum Perhutani, both senior foresters. At that time, most of Indonesia's forests were managed by local communities, as they have been for generations, and in many places as they are today. While these village forests had never been mapped, community leaders and members maintained strong de facto claims to their ancestral territory. What was lacking was a process to legally recognize community forest lands and rights through local and national government. We formed working groups within the ministry to develop a strategy to bring forest communities together with local government and forest departments. It was the beginning of social forestry in Indonesia. Since that time, social forestry laws and policies have been enacted and programs initiated, and much has been learned and achieved. Progress has still been slow in empowering forest people as partners in management. Pak Bambang in his excellent presentation PowerPoint, shows that despite the ambitious national target of securing 12.7 million hectares under community management, less than 2 million hectares have received government approval, representing just 1.6% of Indonesia's forest land under the National Social Forestry Program. For much of the last 50 years, national forest management policies have emphasized economic growth through timber harvesting, forest concession to estate crops like palm oil and surface mining. This is reflected in 35% of Indonesia's forest under timber and plantation management, and another 34% being privatized. Given global threats from rapid climate change, isn't it time to consider new approaches to forest management? Our world is facing catastrophic climate change unless all of us change the way we manage our natural resources in order to slow global warming. This is not a problem that one country can solve on its own. All of us need to do our part. In 2007, the UN program called RED, Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, was announced in Bali. It is one of the best strategies we have for helping countries address the powerful drivers of climate change, in particular, forest loss. As someone who has worked for 40 years in supporting community forest management strategies in Indonesia and all over Asia, this was a game changer for me. Why? Because while social forestry and community forest laws were being approved in many Asian countries, there was little financing to implement them. Forest management costs money, especially when some of the country's poorest people are asked to carry out management tasks. RED Plus had the potential to provide the funds and technology to transform traditional management and bring social and economic benefits to villages protecting forests and reforesting degraded lands. Because of RED, companies that were carbon emitters were now looking for carbon storage and sequestration projects, but they also wanted strategies that supported the social and economic development of forest communities. And they were willing to pay much higher prices for carbon offsets because they knew the funds would benefit village participants. Bujang Raba, Indonesia's first approved forest under HKM, has provided the proof of concept for a RED Plus project, bringing together 5 villages with an experienced NGO, Warsi, local and national government, and international certifiers, verifiers, as well as carbon brokering organizations. After securing strong forest tenure rights, the communities of Bujang Raba utilized the global RED Plus mechanism to establish long-term funding streams to support their resource management activities and social development programs. The Bujang Raba RED project has become a model for effective and efficient sustainable forest management partnerships. Bujang Raba used Plan Vivo out of Edinburgh as a standard for certification because it ensures that projects achieve multiple benefits, including carbon, biodiversity conservation, and socioeconomic development. Only communities that have strong tenure rights recognized by local and national governments could be certified. Community RED Plus can be a strategic building block for national RED, creating a partnership through which communities can control the local drivers of deforestation, while local and national governments can provide tenure security to approved projects, and NGOs can provide training and technical support. Plan Vivo can certify these initiatives, ensuring the project meet international standards for reaching carbon markets. While forest communities are best positioned to control local drivers of deforestation, including forest fires, illegal logging and mining, poaching, and uncontrolled forest clearing, they need the support of local and national government agencies and forest departments, especially when there is a threat to the forest that they do not have the capacity to resolve alone. In Indonesia, communities and district governments along the Bukit Barisan mountain range have asked Warsi to replicate REDD in their forests, potentially creating a conservation buffer around some of Indonesia's most pristine and valuable national parks. Clearly, neighboring districts in Sumatra are noticing success in Bujang Raba. Under the Plan Vivo standard, community projects must demonstrate that a minimum of 60% of the carbon revenues goes directly to community participants. The remainder can support the administration of the project and can be shared between the NGO developer, local and national government agencies contributing to the activity to cover their operational costs. I am happy to see Claire Wigg from Zero Mission is joining this webinar to tell you more about the important role her company plays in supporting community forestry projects around the world through the purchase of carbon credits. Indonesia is well positioned to create a network of community REDD projects, building on the National Social Forestry Program as its foundation. The Ministry of Forests and Environment could establish a working group to facilitate the rapid design of REDD Plus pilot projects in different regions across the country. This would allow policymakers to systematically evaluate how best to integrate community forestry carbon initiatives into the broader national REDD scheme. A successful community REDD program can create an enabling environment to encourage the establishment of REDD Plus partnerships between forest communities, NGOs, and local government. Access to carbon offset funds will accelerate the implementation of the National Social Forestry Program by supporting decentralized project development across the country. A national community REDD Plus initiative could also encourage the approval of social forestry tenure agreements and allow REDD Plus partnerships the right to issue and market carbon offset credits. A national research network could monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the projects and assess how to best link it into the national REDD Plus strategy. Indonesia is at a crossroads and has an opportunity to lead the world in a new approach to managing its natural resources. A national community REDD Plus support scheme can lead both to more sustainable forest management with greater social and economic equity and contribute to the global effort to address climate change. Thank you very much. Selamat hangat.
Thank you, Mr. Mark Wolfenberger, for your support to Warsi. And now let's welcome our fourth speaker, Mr. Claire Wigg, CEO of Zero Mission. Ms. Wigg will share her insight on social policy and international support for payments for ecosystem services. Mr. Wigg, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful event to be part of. I'm talking to you from Sweden, where I am the CEO of a company that's called Zero Mission, which I would describe as social enterprise. And I am going to talk to you to explain how this works from our end when we channel money to the Warsi project through the financing mechanism carbon offsetting. So carbon offsetting is a tool to finance forest management for communities. Next slide, please. This is who we are. So we are a company today of 13 people, quite young, in Stockholm, in Sweden. We founded in 2006 with the vision of taking companies to net zero today, so balancing their emissions, with the aim of course, ensuring a living planet for all of us tomorrow. And we do that by delivering climate strategy help to companies, doing their carbon footprints and enabling them to carbon offset, for instance, with Warsi. Next slide, please. So the agenda for my presentation is 4 things. First, I talk a little bit about the aims of the voluntary carbon market. So this is very much the buyer's perspective. And then carbon offsetting as a tool for companies, and the Plan Vivo standard, which Mr. Poffenberger has referred to already. And then just one slide at the end on future trends, what's important to think about for the future. And of course, later I'll take questions. Next slide, please. So first of all, the aims of the voluntary carbon market. That's what we refer to it in our part of the world, when companies buy carbon offsets generated by the activities in the communities that Warsi is helping. Next slide, please. The definitions first. So you may be wondering what this offsetting is. It's a kind of strange word, perhaps. But there is a definition of what carbon offsetting is. It's a mechanism for compensating for the carbon footprint, that's the greenhouse gas emissions, from a product or a company through the prevention of the release of emissions, or the reduction of emissions, or the removal of emissions. And these activities are happening outside of the company. So we have companies in Sweden with activities in Sweden that want to compensate for their emissions. And they're doing that through the Warsi project. And there's another definition there on the right, but it's basically the same thing. So when activities happen in the Warsi project, which reduce the emissions from the forest degradation, then this can be made into offsets which are bought by companies. Next slide, please. And just so everybody knows what we're talking about, here is a model, if you like, of what 1 ton of carbon dioxide looks like if you put it in a balloon. And you can see cyclists and some people in the background there to have an idea of what it is. And when we talk about carbon offsets, they're always in 1 ton at a time. So we're helping people balance their emissions of 1 ton with the reduction of emissions from degradation of forest by 1 ton at a time. And in our company, we sell to the market about 700,000 tons. So we're balancing the 700,000 times that balloon each year with the offsets generated by projects such as yours. Next, please. And just to put that into context a bit, what that really means in terms of the problem we're facing at the moment globally. Now, if you look just at Sweden, so this is just my country, then the total emissions for the whole country are about 100 million tons a year. And then we have a cap and trade compulsory system that some companies have to take part in, where they have to pay for their emissions. And that covers about 20 million of those tons. So 1/5, that's on the diagram on the right, that's the blue bit at the bottom. And then at the moment, the voluntary market, so when we talk about offsetting, it's a voluntary thing that companies choose to do without being forced to. They just choose to do it for communication reasons, or just for philanthropic reasons, or because they just know that it needs to be done. Then there's about 2 million tons of offsets being sold in the voluntary market in Sweden at the moment. So next slide, please. And then this is a basic summary of what this is all about from the buyer's point of view, really. So the aim of the voluntary carbon market is to finance resource-effective ways to reduce emissions. And that's because companies in our country are doing a lot of things. Sweden is actually very good on reducing emissions. And spending a lot of money to do that, of course. But at the same time, we have emissions which we can't reduce just tomorrow. We are stuck, all of us, in quite a lot of systems that are difficult to get out of. So in the meantime, we can do something. We can invest for other activities in other parts of the world. This is a picture of a solar cooker in Madagascar, for instance. This is another type of project. So we can finance those opportunities, and through carbon markets, we can also transfer technology where relevant and know-how. I'm not sure that's actually the case at all in this Warsi situation. You in Indonesia and the community forest projects, you have much, much more know-how than any of us here in my part of the world on this. But in other cases, there are some technology around energy efficiency, for instance, and energy technologies that can be transferred. And then, of course, the voluntary carbon markets contributes to achieving the sustainable development goals. And for the buyers at our end, it helps them to achieve carbon neutrality, for instance, which they can communicate about. Next slide, please. So part 2, what is this carbon offsetting and why do companies use it? And we describe it as a tool in the toolbox, the climate toolbox for companies. Next slide. So it's one tool, I must say. So first, what should companies do? And this is for the process that we take them through. So our companies have to measure their emissions. And when we talk about measuring emissions, we encourage them as far as we possibly can to measure all their emissions, everything that is giving rise to greenhouse gases from what they do. And then if we go around to the right, then they should start reducing those emissions. And there are things, many things happening, of course, in different parts of the world, but unfortunately not happening fast enough. But the next step, as I say, is for our company customers to reduce. That might be by traveling in a different way or reducing their transport needs by moving a factory or whatever. And then the third one on the left there is at the same time, they can take responsibility. It's like having trash that you're sending up into the atmosphere all the time. And if you're doing that, you really have to take some responsibility for it. So at the same time, they can finance carbon offsetting from certified projects. And then that becomes an internal cost. So in part 4, this cost can be used to drive emissions reductions because they should have an incentive to reduce that cost for the offsetting. So whilst reducing, they can also offset both at the same time. Next, please. And that means that carbon offsetting becomes an enabler. We talk about it a bit like a Stanley. This is a Swiss Army knife here in the middle, which does so many different things, as you know. And so the offsets can reduce emissions, the offsets can avoid emissions, the activities that create these offsets remove emissions, and at the same time, it can help drive the cost. Through the cost, it can help drive companies to make change quicker. That's our hope. Next. And I should just perhaps dispel a myth here. There's many times in Sweden, at least, that people say, well, but these buyers, these companies, they just carry on doing the same thing as usual with their emissions. They don't take any notice of the fact they need to reduce, and they just buy offsets and say that they're okay. But actually, that's not really true, interestingly enough. So there was a study, it's a bit old now, but there's a study done in 2014 internationally of big companies. And it found that many more of those big companies that were offsetting had set targets. So the two were going together. They were offsetting and setting targets, whereas those that weren't offsetting were not so often setting targets. And these offset buyers were spending more on reductions of their own emissions than companies that weren't offsetting. And they were also much more likely to have what we call an internal carbon price, which meant they were making decisions based on emissions as to what to do with in their company, which is also a good thing. So we find this amongst our customers too. Of course, there are some that use offsetting for greenwashing, but there are many more that are doing both. They're reducing and setting goals and offsetting. So next slide, please. And here's one example. So we have a coffee company that's been our customer for about 10 years now. And they offset the emissions from the bean, so right from the farmer to the shelf when the buyer of the coffee packet comes to the shop. And all their coffee is sustainability certified with fair trade or something similar as well. And they've done many things to reduce their emissions as well over this time, as well as offsetting. So they have, for instance, were the first roaster in the Nordics to have biogas fuel for their roasting plant rather than a fossil fuel. And they offset in Nicaragua, in this case, close to coffee farms. And during this time, for many reasons, of course, but during this time, their market share with their coffee product in Sweden has increased dramatically. So they've been able to use this complete strategy of sustainability and climate action to increase their sales. Next, please. Now, part 3, I come to the question of how can carbon offsetting finance community initiatives? And in a sense, we're all here today because this is what's happening with Warsi, but from the buyer's perspective a little bit, I talk about it. Next, please. So there are different types of offsetting today, and Warsi's project, your project, fits into the avoid one, the fourth one there, avoid, RED, forest conservation. And RED stands for reduced emissions from degradation and deforestation. But there are others. So our buyers buy carbon offsets from different sorts of projects that reduce emissions by switching from fossil energy to renewable energy, projects that reduce emissions by making things more efficient, for instance, with a cook stove, projects that avoid emissions by capturing, say, methane and maybe converting it into CO2, which has lower impact. Or on the right-hand side, by removing CO2 from the atmosphere by planting trees. So those are the basic types of offsetting projects today, which our customers buy from. And then you'll see there are three small circles down in the right-hand corner. That's because there are new types of projects coming in, and these are things like direct air capture and more technical ways to capture carbon dioxide. But that's how the landscape looks. And RED, RED projects, of which Warsi is a wonderful example, dominate at the moment in the market internationally for carbon offsets. But the prices vary a lot. So some companies have been paying, not perhaps today, but have been paying under $1 per ton, and prices can go up to $50 or even more. At the moment, there's a lot of price increase in the market. Next, please. And just to put this in your project in context a little, we've heard a little bit about Plan Vivo already, and these are the standards that are used, the main standards that are used internationally to certify carbon offsets and carbon offset projects. And every project has to go through a process of being certified, registered, certified, and then all the offsets that have been, the emissions reductions or savings have to be verified. And these are 5 standards that have been doing this globally. Plan Vivo is interestingly the oldest of them all, which is wonderful. And then the next one there is the UN's CDM system, which is now coming to an end. And then we have Gold Standard, which you may have heard of, and VCS, which dominates in the US. And then in 2015, Fair Trade launched a standard as well, which is linked to Gold Standard. So we in Zero Emissions sell mostly from Plan Vivo on the left, Gold Standard in the middle, and Fair Trade on the right. Sorry, next please. And what all these standards have in common, which is sort of what, if you like, the buyer wants to see, is the buyer wants to see that the carbon benefit is measurable, it's verified, it's traceable, so you can know that the carbon benefit you're buying has happened in a particular place at a particular time, and it's permanent and real, and it's also additional, and that additional means that the carbon benefit or the climate benefit, the emissions reduction or removal, wouldn't have happened without this financing that comes from the offsets. And those are the standard criteria that all the standards, different ones, of course, including Plan Vivo, abide by. Yes, next. So the Plan Vivo standard, and this is really the heart and soul of Zero Emission, has been Plan Vivo since the beginning. So we're really delighted to see that so many projects succeeding and growing, and because it facilitates finance for communities to do forest projects to prevent climate change. Next, please. So Plan Vivo fits well with us because we want to buy only and support only projects that are well anchored amongst local actors and that have long-term impact and social benefits, the so-called co-benefits, besides carbon, and that have a high degree of additionality. And that's why we choose the standards we have. Plan Vivo, about 2/3 of the offsets, so 2/3 of our sales are from the Plan Vivo standard, and that's from about 12 projects globally, including Warsi's. Next, please. So the question is why Plan Vivo, and what does Plan Vivo offer? And this is a good sort of comparison, really. Here are 2 projects that take place in Uganda. A community forest project on the right and a plantation project on the left. And what we're looking for is that a project contributes to sustainable development. So is it locally anchored? Is it developed bottom up or top down? Who's sort of in charge and how are decisions made? And then if you look on the left, there's a project which has been unfortunately quite heavily criticised under the CDM standard. And it was a pine forest with just one species. And there were 6,000 small farmers involved, and some of them were forced to move and lost their livelihoods. That's some of the research findings, at least. But on the right, we have a Plan Vivo project where only domestic tree species are planted. They're integrated with crops, so it's agroforestry. The smallholders' own land are involved, and it's their land that they are choosing to plant trees on. And there's an increase in livelihood opportunities rather than the opposite. So all exactly the same principles that the Warsi project is based upon. And that's what makes it important for us, which standard we choose to use when we're buying offsets for our customers. So Plan Vivo, as I say, is our top favorite. Then another thing with Plan Vivo, of course, is, as mentioned by Mr. Poffenberger, was the benefit sharing, in that 60% of the money has to go, is set aside to go to the local communities, all the way down to the people on the ground who are doing the activities for us all. Yes, next please. And just a little interesting picture about how we try to engage our customers with the projects. So we actually had a virtual reality team travel to Indonesia a few years ago, and they made a film which you can view with these headsets. Because not everyone in Sweden has been in tropical rainforest, and not everyone in Sweden has the opportunity to travel, of course. So exactly how it feels to come into see what a forest is like, and to see what it means for the people involved is really important for us, because our customers need to feel confident in what they're paying for. Next slide, please. And of course, we're paying, and our customers are paying, for carbon benefits, for climate benefits with CO2, but actually so much more is happening in all the projects that we support. And this is a set of figures that were done by a research team on gold standard projects, actually. But what they found was this huge investment in other sustainable development goals, which was happening alongside the carbon benefit, and that's what we see, of course, in Plan Vivo. So you get money flowing that is for carbon offsets, but actually a lot more benefit is happening in the communities for fuel savings, in this case from stoves, for instance, or environmental benefits, skills and jobs, and economy improvements in livelihoods. So next, please. So very quickly then, my last slides, so a couple of points on the future trends that we see in this voluntary carbon market. Next slide. So this is a picture from Paris, from Madrid actually, where we had a panel discussion on what might be going on in the market in a few years' time, but it's changed a lot even since then. So now it's changing very quickly indeed. So there's a very quick growth in demand now for carbon offsetting at the moment, and I think that's to do with climate change. People understand that climate change is here. It's being experienced by many of us every day, and therefore we all know we have to do more. But there is a lot of uncertainty, or some uncertainty, related to the Paris Agreement. At the COP in Glasgow, parts of so-called Article 6 were finally agreed, which is positive. But there are still some questions about how the voluntary carbon offset market is going to handle that. Still some uncertainty and debate, I must say, different views as to what should be done. But the sort of conclusion of both those two is that prices will rise, and they are rising, which is a good thing. It's a good thing as long as that money actually flows to the communities who are taking part in these projects. So what I'm hoping, really hoping not to see, is that lots of people get very rich on selling offsets at a high price, and that money never reaches the communities that are doing the activities. So that makes Plan Vivo even more important for us. And then there's a very high focus on removals and natural climate solutions. So I mentioned earlier on some projects that, for instance, distribute better cook stoves, but actually there's a lot of interest on removals in nature and forest and natural climate solutions. And lastly, we're seeing domestic projects in Europe. So offsetting might start to be more common as something that happens in our country too. So then customers will have a choice to invest in projects in Sweden, perhaps, or elsewhere in the world. So that's a development that's happening at the moment. And that was the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Claire, for your presentation. Thank you. And for participants who want to ask to Ms. Claire Wick, please type your question to Q&A box below. Mr. Wick will answer the selected question during the discussion session. And to all participants, now there will be a link, an attendee form in the chat box. Kindly open the link and fill the form with your data so we can record your presence in this webinar tonight and you will get a certificate. All right, now I invite all the speakers to the panel, Ms. Emmy Primadona, Mr. Bambang Supriyanto, and also Ms. Claire Wick. Would you like to join us again as we will begin the discussion session? Okay, we already have many questions from the audience and we've select some of them. And the first question it's from Nur Komariah Yogyakarta to Miss Emmy Primadona. First, Miss Nur Komariah said, happy birthday to Warsi. Congratulations. Very happy for success story in Bujang Raba for CFM model. Learn from it. What sorts of management activities are used by communities under CFM schemes and how much carbon is saved as a result? The first question is that. And the second question is, what is the opportunity cost of this management? And the third question from the same person is, how could the carbon stock changes be measured and mentioned in the context, in the cost-effective manner? Okay, would you like to answer the question, Ms. Emmy?
Thank you very much, Ms. Nur Komariah. There are 3 questions I would like to answer one by one. The first question asking about what sort of activities regarding to management activities. Actually, in the context of Bujang Raba, the management of the management activities is led by the Village Forest Management Group or KPHD, Kelompok Pengelola Hutan Desa. And actually, the kind of activity is not something new. This activity based on the Village Forest Management Plan, berdasarkan rencana kerja hutan desa itself. It has been described in the annual planning and even in the midterms management plan. And based on that kind of management plan, we do some activities such as improving the capacity building, forest patrol, forest enrichment, how to synchronize the village enterprise business with the natural resources. And at the time, because of the high commitment of local community and the collaboration with the government itself, the local community able to stop deforestation in that area until zero. Like Pak Bambang said, in many forest area, the activity of illegal logging, of deforestation, even zero. It also happened in Bujang Raba side. And we already counted the number of carbon stock everywhere in that area. We can save more than 37,000 ton CO2 per equivalent. And how the local community do monitor? There are several ways. The first one, the local community can do fixed photo point where they do or take a picture in one point every year. So they can capture the forest, the photo of the forest cover every year. And also in Warsi itself, we do a forest monitoring system by using drone and do Citra satellite analysis. and overlay the condition on the ground and also the condition in the Citra satellite analysis. And it has been proven also there is no deforestation happen in that area. And based on that things, even though the local community has the commitment 70% to reduce the deforestation and forest degradation, but actually local community 100% able to reduce the deforestation and forest degradation rate. Thank you, Pak Prita.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Miss Emmy. Okay, we'll go to the next question. We have many questions for tonight. And this is also to Miss Emmy. Miss Emmy, this is a question from Arif Fadi, PT Royal Lestari Utama, and also Pokja Percepatan Perhutanan Sosial. I will read it in Bahasa Indonesia. First, I hope you don't mind, Miss Clairwick, you can turn on the interpretation for this question. This is the question to Miss Emmy. Selamat ulang tahun bagi Warsi, apresiasi atas perjuangan yang luar biasa dan terus berkarya bagi hutan dan masyarakat. Dan disampaikan pertanyaannya pertama adalah, Warsi terlibat dalam 5 skema perhutanan sosial. Apakah bisa di-share, Mbak Emmy, pembelajaran penting pengalaman Warsi mendampingi orang rimba dalam mengembangkan skema kemitraan kehutanan? Dan apakah ada juga pengalaman pengembangan kemitraan di hutan konservasi seperti Taman Nasional, begitu? Mungkin tadi sudah disebutkan ya sebenarnya bagaimana pengalaman mendampingi orang rimba, tapi silakan dielaborasi lagi, Mbak Emmy.
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Prita. Terima kasih juga Pak Arief atas pertanyaannya. Memang pada presentasi saya saat ini lebih kepada skema perhutanan sosial dalam konteks hutan desa, karena kita memang lagi mempromosikan modeling yang kita lakukan di Bujang Raba. Untuk orang rimba di presentasi ini tidak banyak, tapi bisalah kita bagi bahwa kita juga melakukan banyak kemitraan konservasi baik dengan Taman Nasional, khususnya yang di wilayah Taman Nasional Kerinci Seblat, di mana di situ ada kelompok masyarakat adat Serampas yang telah mengelola hutan adat yang bersama-sama dengan Balai TNKS. Saat ini proses kemitraan sudah ada masyarakat yang juga bermitra dalam hal melakukan forest patrol, dan juga ada kolaborasi dalam pengembangan jasa lingkungan ekowisata, yaitu Danau Depati 4, yang menurut kami saat ini sudah menjadi sukses story juga dari bentuk kolaborasi kemitraan antara masyarakat dan pihak Taman Nasional Kerinci Seblat. Terkait dengan orang rimba, saat ini ada juga kemitraan dengan perusahaan yang telah memberikan luasan kurang lebih 114 hektar untuk orang rimba. Mereka mengelola kebun karet, dan proses kebun karetnya saat ini bisa langsung dibeli oleh perusahaan. Jadi bentuknya kolaborasi. Mereka mengelola kebun karet yang juga dialokasi oleh perusahaan, dan itu bisa kembali dijual kepada perusahaan. Lebih ke situ, Mbak Prita, bentuk kolaborasi yang kita lakukan saat ini dalam bentuk kemitraan. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak Emmy. Ini saya sambil melihat berbagai pertanyaan yang ada juga berikut ini pertanyaan untuk Pak Bambang. Saya akan langsung bacakan, ini ada 3, sebenarnya ada 4 pertanyaan, ada 5 pertanyaan, waduh banyak ini Pak. Ada 6. Kalau gitu saya 3 dulu saja ya Pak Bambang ya. Ini ada 6 pertanyaan untuk Bapak yang masuk. Saya akan bacakan masing-masing 3 terlebih dahulu, biar Bapak juga mudah mengingatnya. Pertanyaan dari Pak Arif Hadi, PT Royal Lestari Utama, dan juga Pokja Percepatan Perhutanan Sosial di Jambi. Apa saja Pak peluang akses permodalan atau finansial yang sekarang dapat diakses atau dimanfaatkan oleh kelompok perhutanan sosial? Apakah juga bisa dari BPDLH? Mungkin bisa diinfokan bagaimana ketentuannya, begitu. Dan kemudian Pak, pertanyaan yang kedua Pak, dari Ibu Elin Damayanti, konsultan. Terima kasih untuk presentasinya Pak Bambang. Dalam presentasi, salah satu komoditi yang ditargetkan untuk mencapai net polusi di areal perhutanan sosial adalah karbon. Apakah perdagangan karbon dari areal perhutanan sosial sudah boleh dilakukan? Begitu Pak. Terkait juga tadi apa yang disampaikan dalam presentasi dari Claire Wick. Dan kemudian yang ketiga Pak, ada pertanyaan dari Kurnis. Izin yang 35 tahun itu untuk skema perhutanan sosial yang mana Pak? Dan kalau hutan adat bagaimana kemudian? Yang kedua, negara punya klaim terhadap hutan, masyarakat adat juga punya klaim terhadap hutan mereka. Nah, bagaimana kemudian status kepemilikan tanah atau legalitas hak mereka terhadap tanah yang mendorong skema HD, HTR, dan kemitraan HKM? Silakan Pak Bambang dengan jawabannya.
Okay. Maybe I will use English rather than Indonesia. Otherwise, I will confuse by myself.
Okay. Silakan,
Okay.
silakan, Pak.
So, Pak Adi, Jambi, you know, there are so many finance benefit if we hold like a permit for the social forestry. There are two schemes. The one is about what we call as like a grant, and the second is like microfinance. For the grant, normally after the farmer group receive like a permit, then they have like a facilitator to create like a sustainable forest management and business plan. Then normally the government will grant 50 million rupiahs as input for the agroforestry, like a seedling, fertilizer, and other things. This is like incentive to them. This is the one. And there are so many in terms of grant mechanism, not only from the government, but also from the private, like CSR. CSR, it is allowed for the social forestry holder, of course. And the second, this is about what we call as carbon finance, microfinance, microfinance. We have a cooperation with the National Bank Indonesia, and then the rate of the interest is about 6% a year. This is too high. I still complaining to the government, even I'm the government, but we are still coordinating, how to reduce the rate of the interest. At least at 1 to 3%, this will be okay, fair, because the inflation is 3%. So this is about the grant, and also a microfinance. For the second, Ibu Damayanti. So in social forestry, the main business is the real business. What I mean is, agroforestry yielded like a product, then a commodity, and then we can create like a product. Then the farmer will earn from those kind of product. So this is the main business. If we have like additional income from environmental services like a carbon, this is like after some effort already undertaken by the farmer, then we will have like incentive from the carbon. But at the moment we are still arranging the mechanism, because of already have a presidential decree number 98 2021 saying that we have obligation for the national community 29% with voluntary and 41% with international support. So we are going to divide first with the obligations of the voluntary. Then we are trying to arrange about the mechanism of the carbon benefit for the social and other economic stakeholder in managing of the forest. This is Ibu Damayanti. And the third, we have a 5 scheme of the social forestry. The one is village forest, and then community forest, and then the third is a partnership with the company, and the fourth is community plantation forest. Those 4 permit, this is for 35 years, the duration, and it can be extended 2 times or 3 times. It is depending on the performance. So normally the government will evaluate every 5 years. If the performance is not good, then there is like a administrative sanction, yeah, to improve their performance first. But after 1, 2, 3, and then we are trying to suspend the permit because of not seriously about the farmer group itself. And the fourth scheme, this is about adat forest. There is no duration of the time, because we have we make like difference status of state forests and adat forests. Normally, even our team will declare to acknowledge the adat forest after we do like a technical verification in the field, to prove is that true the community adat is there, and then is that there is a link with the local wisdom and traditional forest related knowledge with them. As long as yes, and then with the academic rations, of course, we can declare that forest belong to the adat, belong to the community adat. Once with the government, decided, it means the duration unlimited, because we do believe with the local wisdom, with the traditional knowledge, as long as there is no intervention from the externality, it means the forest itself will exist forever. Thank you very much.
Iya, thank you Pak Bambang. Baik Pak Bambang, ini masih ada beberapa pertanyaan lagi untuk Bapak di sini. Saya akan bacakan kembali. Pertanyaan berikutnya ini adalah, sebentar Pak. I'm sorry, ya, dari provinsi dari Norkomariah Jogja, Pak. Begitu pertanyaannya adalah yang pertama, SDGs become one of the important issues in the RPJMN 2020-2024 and will be end in 2030. What's the strategy for accelerating and enhancing of the SDGs, including in reducing emission? Ya, ini mungkin pertanyaannya luas sekali ya Pak, tapi mungkin bisa dikerucutkan jawabannya kepada perhutanan sosial saja. Kemudian yang kedua, pertanyaannya juga adalah the deforestation rate in community forest in Jambi province on the islands of Sumatra. So the deforestation rate dropped from 5.47 hectares per year to 1.01 hectares. This is from ecobusiness.com that said that 30.52 to 2.50 acre per year. How to ensure that will be continuing and the CFM model through social forestry program is contributing to sustainable in green economy for community and around forest there. Baik, itu Pak, masih ada satu lagi pertanyaannya ini dari Angel Manembu, dari seorang konsultan bernama Angel Manembu mengatakan bahwa apakah pembelajaran kaitan dengan social forestry sudah didokumentasikan Pak untuk pembelajaran berbagai pihak, tantangan dan juga praktik-praktik baiknya. Silakan Pak Bambang, waktu dan tempat kami persilakan.
Okay. Thank you. I will answer those 3 questions to me directly. So the first is from Ibu Nur, Yogyakarta, saying about our target. Our target is 12.7 million hectares. At the moment, we achieve in the end of 2021 is 4.9. So we still have homework, 7 million hectares more. So how to accelerate this by putting the social forestry into what we call as national, not long-term, but middle plan of development. So I fully agree. What I have like autocritic to ourselves that there is like there is a difference between a political target and a budget target. So normally the good thing is political and budget should be in line. But okay, maybe for example, like last year, because of the COVID pandemic, 2019 we got 1.5 million hectares. 2018, 1.8 million hectares a year. But 2020 dropped to 4,000 hectares, and by 2021 is almost 500,000 hectares a year. Because why? Because our national budget cut off, and then we concentrate for the health because of the COVID influence. But doesn't matter, yeah. Actually, last year, our target only 250,000 hectares, but we got 5,000 hectares. Why we have this good performance? Because we have innovation and technology, and also working together with you, like a social forestry governance, not only government, but also private and also NGO working together. I give you one example why we have a double result. We use for the technical verification to check the subject, the community, and also the object. We do like a virtual combination. Like today, we are Zooming. We only assign 1 or 2 people and then jointly with the local NGO, and then doing a verification and validation in the field using a technology, and yielded, of course, the efficient in terms of the budget, and the result still high. So can you imagine, by having innovation and technology, it can be happen, do efficient result. So, but I'm proposing, this is, I will announce to you, all of you, but there will be a presidential decision on, interministerial working group, to support the social forestry. It means all of the budget, national and local, it can use to support the social forestry. Maybe, for example, like, Home Affairs Ministry already issued the letter directed to the governor and also head of the district, saying that please, in your medium term of the development, put social forestry as one of the elements. It means the local budget can be used to social forestry. This is one of the example for the governor and also for the bupati, head of the district. So, okay, our money is less, but there is another support from other ministry, from local government. And as you already aware that village budget, so every village, receive like a money from the national government. This is about 2 million a village. One village, 2 million. 2 billion, sorry. 2 billion rupiah. And if you see that the decision decree of the village minister, number 7, 2021, saying that the village fund can be used to support the social forestry. So this is our strategy. Collaborative is the key, of course, and then how to ensure the another stakeholder to support the social forestry. Also, private sector, maybe, for example, who do like emission for the carbon. So why don't they, they do like a zero net emission, by supporting the social forestry area in one in nearby to or close by to the factory established over there. This is another strategy. Okay, this is for the second, of course. And the third, this is about deforestation rate. Thank you. This is, I think, 5.37 hectares a year, and then decrease 1.01. This is in line with the Kata Data survey held in year of 2000, in the end of 2020, saying that if the forest handle to the community, and then they already have like a benefit on it, of course they are going to preserve and also to protect their forest. That's why the rate of the deforestation is decreasing. This is proven, yeah. And then about documentation, I'm very afraid, when the president elect me to be the DG in the year of 2007, then I'm very afraid. 5 million hectares, how many households involved? Almost 1.1 million households. If one household consists of 4 or 5, member of the family, it means 5 million people involved to the social forestry. And then the location is almost 8,000 locations in Indonesia, and then spread out in the 33 provinces in Indonesia. How can we monitor? How can we make a baselining data? So I graduate from the university of based on the technology, so that I use also technology. What we call as we have applications, namely GoCoops, not Gojek, but GoCoops. Go, I use Go in English is going, and then Coops is farmer group, business unit. So all of the 8,000 Coops business unit of social forestry already registered spatially in those applications. And then all of the facilitator should be update the development of the farmer group of business. Maybe I saw you before. There are 4 categories. The one is blue, and then silver, gold, and platinum. This is basically machine and also system-based classification. Once the facilitator inputting the data, then they are using like a criteria and indicator, then they will make a classify those farmer group into a certain of predicate of the farmer group. So please take a look our system GoCoops, namely, even this is still we are still struggling, of course. With your help, of course, in the future become better. Thank you, Ibu Prita.
Thank you, terima kasih Pak Bambang untuk penjelasannya yang lengkap, komprehensif semuanya ya Pak ya. Dan juga silahkan dilihat itu data-datanya tadi disampaikan, sudah ada dokumentasi yang juga sudah lengkap disiapkan oleh KLHK. Baik, the next question to Miss Claire Wick. You have four question to you, Miss Claire Wick, and I will read 2 of them first. The first question is from Angel Manembu. Based on your organization experience, what can Indonesia learn from other projects, and what can the world learn from Indonesia? And the second question is from Bernd Junger. In our project, Forest Program 3rd Sulawesi, we often talk about how we can channel funds to communities. The voluntary market is one possibility. However, we hear that this is not possible in Indonesia at the moment. Do you have any information on this? Can we link our social forestry groups and also our groups that have signed community conservation agreements with the national park to the voluntary market?
Thank you for those questions. The first one, what can be learned? Yes, the amazing results from your attempts to reduce your efforts to reduce deforestation seem to be fantastic. So something to talk about into the rest of the world, absolutely. I guess to other neighboring countries with similar situations, and to other parts of the world in South America, which have similar forests, and Africa. And that social forestry works. So if we want to be serious, if we're serious about preserving these wonderful forests, we need to do it with the social communities and give them the resources to do it properly. So social forestry as the model, not other types of large scale or other types of mechanisms. That was that. And then the question is, at the moment, what's the situation with carbon trading, as it might be called? Yes, so my understanding, and I need to refer to Emmy on this as well, since, so Emmy is our contact in Indonesia. My understanding is that there is, at the moment, a pause on what we might describe as exporting the credits. So the Warsi project has generated climate benefits, which have been verified, but at the moment the situation is that those can't be, the credits that arise from that, those activities can't be exported for sale and retirement, because we take, when we receive carbon offsets, there's serial numbers in a register which represent the activities that have taken place on the ground, and we take them out of that register when our clients have purchased them. And that's the process that we can't do at the moment. And I understand exactly why that is. And this is perhaps one of the points I would have said. There was a question earlier about what is the situation for social forestry in the voluntary carbon market internationally at the moment. And I would say that my answer to that would be, this situation is very good. There is a huge amount of interest in financing these kinds of activities for the purpose of carbon offsetting. But there are two reservations. One is that companies need to be, and there are two reservations which are connected to each other. Companies that are going to, if companies are going to finance this, obviously states do as well, but if companies are going to finance it, then they need to know what they can say in their communications and what they're really buying. So then that's this uncertain period that we're in at the moment as to how that's going to actually be handled. So if companies are going to be able to claim that that these emissions have really been reduced just for them, so their finance has contributed to these reductions, and that's going to be theirs to account for in their climate footprint calculations, then that needs to be sorted out with governments, because governments, of course, want to claim that too. And absolutely right, when it's happening in your area, and you've been very much involved in the development, and it's your people. So we need to find internationally solutions to this, and this is a big debate called, which you may have heard the term, corresponding adjustments. But that's so my conclusion in the question, how is the market for social forestry offsets at the moment, is the market is extremely good in principle. There's a lot of interest. Everyone thinks this is extremely important, but there are some things we need to sort out. And this, the pause in Indonesia's export of credits at the moment is part of that, which we understand is going to be resolved in some way at some point.
Okay, thank you, Claire. There another question to you. Wait a minute. I will read it for you. Okay. It's from Soa Ashafa to Claire. The question is, thanks first for the clear presentation. There are a number of Indonesia NGO who have shown their reservation in terms of carbon offsetting, as there is a risk of big gas and coal companies using offsetting as greenwashing instead of making more efforts for emission reduction from their core work. Do you have any statement? Do you have any opinion or data regarding that statement? And also there is another question to you from Putri. How to ensure that carbon offsetting is not just a way to buy your way out, making sure avoiding releasing emission in the first place is still the best option. I think the same, that two question is related, yeah? Okay, please answer.
Yes, thank you. Yes, very good questions and very much understandable. in our company, we have had, since we started in 2006, a routine to get our customers to sign a document when they buy offsets from us. And that document states that they will do all these other things that we need them to do. They will set goals, they will measure properly, they will include all their emissions and not just the ones that are easy. And they will reduce, and they will communicate correctly. So we have a 5 or 6 point document that they have to sign, which we've done since the beginning. We've also been a player in this market who has been very strong on the community side of this. So, and which means, thankfully, that our prices have been higher because these projects have supported communities properly, I hope. So we've also been had a little bit of a luxury, you might say, there to have customers who understand this. So we fortunately haven't faced that situation where we've been our customers have been accused really quite justifiably of greenwashing. So, but the question was how to prevent that. And that's the tricky bit. Can you regulate is a question, of course, and there is a way to regulate, which is to regulate the claims that companies may make. And there's a lot of debate in Europe at the moment about that. So to regulate when a company may, for instance, use the term climate neutral. There are some international standards around that already. There's an ISO definition, and there's a new ISO standard coming called 14068, which is being written, which I'm involved in. And if you regulate the claims, so that's what they can, if you regulate what they can communicate, that's one way to do it. So the ISO 14068 standard will, I hope, it's being in development now, so I can't say exactly what it will say, but it will, I think, set very ambitious requirements. So you have to be setting goals, you have to be reducing, you have to be measuring everything. So that's one way. So if you regulate the claims that companies can make, that's one way to do it. Otherwise, it's difficult, isn't it? Because a company has the right to buy something if they want, kind of thing. So you can only control it through the sellers. So we have our mechanism for trying to control that, or through regulation of the communication, I think. The third way, I suppose, might be just pure sort of shame. If NGOs call them out and say, no, this isn't okay. The trouble with that, from my experience, though, is that if NGOs quite understandably want to complain about an oil company, for instance, doing something like that, then what can happen is that the whole of offsetting gets criticised, and projects like Warsi get drawn in because of what the buyer's doing, which is completely unfair. And unfortunately, the media then can be quite against the whole mechanism. But it's what we want to get rid of is the bad use of the mechanism rather than the whole mechanism itself. And that's it's a challenge which we face every day. But it's you need strong-minded, resilient people to go out and find the right customers and connect them to the right projects.
Thank you, Ms. Clairvaux, for your answer. Okay, this is the last question from me to summarize this discussion. We already at the end of this discussion. My question is the same to all of you. The question is, can you explain the next of your step or your institution step to support perhutanan sosial, social forestry. So because we already got the point of this webinar that the social forestry is very important, have many benefits, not just to people, but also environment, climate change, and also economics and food security. So the question is, can you tell us what is your next step to support the social forestry in Indonesia? Yes, specifically in Indonesia specifically. Okay, please, Miss Emmy first. Would you like to answer the question?
Okay, thank you. Warsi still have a commitment to facilitate the local community to improve their capacity in management plan of social forestry. Like I said before, the next commitment should be continue. So the first one, when we talk about social forestry, we should talk about the commitment. collaboration, synchronizations, and also innovations. That's the next step for the future. I think that's all, Mbak Prita.
Okay, thank you, Miss Emmy. How about you, Pak Bambang?
Yeah, the government of Indonesia, of course, committing to accelerate the distribution of the access for the farmer group, and also enhancing the quality of the transforming of the social energy for the sustainable forest management, while also make people corporate which equal to the big corporates. This is our dream, of course. And then how to do? Of course, this is the same like Ibu Emmy, collaborative. So by having the same goal or objective, then we are allowing to share our resources and also sharing the risks and also the benefits by collaborating with public-private people partnership in the future to improve the social forestry governance. Thank you, Ibu Prita.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. Okay, last but not least, Ms. Clairwick.
Oh, that's a privilege to get the last word. First, two things. First of all, I am going to go and talk to my team on Monday and tell them about how inspiring this has been, how wonderful to connect with you all. It really helps to have those relationships because it feels so much more real than sitting in an office without seeing any of you here in Sweden. And so I will be talking to them, and we will be encouraging more companies to get involved in supporting this. And the second thing, though, is I will try and book a meeting with you, Emmy, to see what we can do together to try and resolve this important issue to get the finance flowing. And how we can work together and collaborate too about exactly as it was just said about sharing risks and benefits. So I like to pursue that question with anybody here who's interested. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Claire, for your good intention and also the next plan is we're really glad to hear that. Thank you, Ms. Clairwick. As what Pak Bambang said before, the collaboration is the key to enhance the social forestry in Indonesia, because in Indonesia we're facing many challenges in social forestry. There are many challenges, not just the environment, but also the problem of the conflict of the land. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problem in Indonesia. So the collaboration from all stakeholders will be very important. And also what's said by the president lately in the G20 event, that the president of Indonesia really said strongly that we really need support from the developed countries, yeah, to achieve our national our NDC, national determined contribution. So what you said before, Mr. Cleric, is very important for us. Your support is very important also for us, and not just for us, but also many for the peoples around the social forestry. Thank you so much. Let's give a big applause to the speaker for today. Thank you so much, Ms. Clairwick. Thank you, Bapak Bambang Supriyanto. Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Thank you so much, Mbak Emmy Primadona. Thank you so much. Would you like to open your camera because we would like to take a photo to memorize our moment of collaboration, for a better collaboration for the next year. I would like also to invite the representative of Warsi. Would you like to also open your video and we will take a picture together? Okay. Let's give a big smile for the good collaboration for next. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I cannot see a big smile. How about we say together Warsi?
Warsi.
So your so we can see your teeth, yeah? Okay. Okay, I will count 3, 2, 1. Warsi.
Warsi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Dirjen.
Terima kasih. Warsi, happy anniversary. Thank you.
Terima kasih Mbak Prita.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mbak Prita.
Thank you. And as we are at the end of our webinar session, we would like to thank you, especially once again to all the speakers for the sharing and also insight and thought, and also the commitment and intention to collaborate, during the discussion tonight. And thank you to our honored guests and partner of KKI Warsi who attended our session tonight. We are very delighted to have you supporting us for the past 30 years, and we hope there will be another support for the next years, the next decade, we hope. And we hope that our partnership and cooperation will go on strong. Thank you for all people behind the scene also who work hard to this event can happen, and thank you to all environment activists and all participants of the webinar. We are joining in the Zoom, who are joining in the Zoom and also YouTube for engaging in the lively discussion tonight. And we are excited to enter the 4th decade KKI lebih tepatnya KKI Warsi will continue managing forest for prosperity. Let's give a big applause to close this webinar. Okay, thank you. My name is Prita Laura, the moderator for this webinar. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Mbak Prita.
Sama-sama, thank you.
Pak Hezi, tim dari
Ada ininya, ada saingan Ispitu.
Recording stopped.